All right. Hello, everyone. Today we're going to be talking about, actually, by the way, before we start, I am Norma Geary. I am a student at National University. I am here conducting a short presentation on how to cope with anxiety and stress during a test. And these are my participants tonight. I have all high school students, so I'm going to go ahead and allow for them to introduce themselves, and we'll go ahead and start with you.
Hi, I'm Alex, and I'm from Farley High School, and I'm 16.
Hi, I'm Victor Perez. I'm from Rossi High School, and I'm 18.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Jessica, and I went to Golden West High School in Visalia, and I'm 17 years old.
Okay, so these are our three high school students from Visalia area. For those of you that are not aware of Visalia, we are just an hour away from Fresno, which is a more known city. Okay, so we are going to start with our presentation, but before we do that, I'm going to give you guys a short pop quiz. Now, how many of you guys have ever attended class and you walk into a class and you're not prepared and you are given a pop quiz and you're completely clueless of what this quiz is about?
Oh, yeah.
It's happened? Yeah? Okay, it's happened before? Yeah? Okay, so that's exactly what's going to happen right now, okay? And I'm going to give you a pop quiz. I'm going to show you what it looks like. Now, let me show everyone else what it is. It's a very hard math problem. Okay. So I'm going to have my students work on this. I'm going to give you guys a sheet of paper. Now, usually in a regular comprehensive high school, the teacher would say, those of you that don't do well are not going to be part of, our Fun Friday. You guys are not going to be able to have pizza with us. You guys won't be able to be part of our water day or whatever it is. So, look at the first question. Okay, I'll scoot this that way. Read it. Okay, this is your pop quiz. Do not look at your partner's work. Okay, do not cheat, but do the best you can. Okay, and I'll give you guys 3-4 minutes. It's only 2 questions. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and give them time for that. Okay, so you guys look a little blank. You guys look like you guys are not understanding the question. You guys look a little confused. What do you think that is?
We're not prepared for the pop quiz.
You're not prepared for the pop quiz.
Very hard question.
Very hard question, okay. And maybe you've never learned this before, right?
No.
You've never learned this before. Okay, so when your teacher tells you such thing, when your teacher tells you, okay, if you don't do well on this test, this is going to, knock you down to, 20 points, 30 points, or it's going to, be a one letter grade lower, or you're not going to be able to participate in such event. How does that make you feel?
It throws anxiety over us because it throws more pressure, and then it feels like we have to do it.
You have to do well, right? Okay. And how does that anxiety feel? How does that feel?
It gets you nervous.
It gets you nervous,
Yeah,
okay.
And you go way more blank than normal.
You go more blank. Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah.
How do you feel? Whenever you get anxiety, do you start to sweat? Do you get mad? Some people actually get mad when they get anxiety.
Yeah.
How do you feel? You get mad?
Yeah, I would get real mad.
Okay. What about you? How do you feel?
Yeah, I get more blank.
You go more blank. Okay. So that's what anxiety feels like. That's what it is. Okay. So now that you've attempted to start this test and you don't know how to do it, you don't know how to even start, I'm going to give you guys a quick questionnaire, okay? And I want you to tell me how it is that you felt. just based on what happened right now, okay? So I'm going to give this to you. You can keep your papers, answer the questions. Now, so basically what this is it's a 10-question questionnaire, okay? And it'll ask you, a few questions of how it is that you feel when it comes to anxiety. How difficult is it to choose answers on a test? Do you have trouble sleeping at night before a test? So answer to the best of your ability, okay? So you'll see the numbers there, and make sure just, read the instructions and answer that. Now, once I add up the points, okay, the higher the score indicates that you suffer from severe test anxiety. The lower the scores, meaning, it's something that I guess everybody is, how would I say this? Everybody is kind of relatable to or has experienced it, but it's not, it's not too bad. So go ahead and do that. Give you guys some time. So, which makes sense. These students are saying that when they look at something, they feel, something that they're not prepared for. They're feeling, anxious. They're feeling, unprepared. And like she said, she went more blank. So we'll give them some time to finish this questionnaire, and we'll start with our PowerPoint. Let's go to, okay, make sure you guys put your names on these. Okay. Okay, and when you're done, I will set them over here. Yep, I'll set them right here. Okay. And one of the questions says, let me see, I have visible signs of nervousness. So how many of you guys felt shaky or got sweaty because you guys didn't know this question? Now, maybe not right now because this is more of a little mock, presentation, but in class, what normally happens? Do you guys panic? Do you guys sweat? What has happened to you?
I start shaking my legs.
Yeah, I shake my legs
You
a lot
shake
too.
your
Yeah,
legs?
it's like that's a bad habit.
Yeah?
Like, every time.
Okay. Okay. Well, you said you shake your legs too? What else?
My mind, yeah.
I start looking around to see if anyone else is coming.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I remember when I was in high school, my thing was I would get, like, my heart would start beating really fast. And just because, it wasn't because I didn't feel prepared for the test. It was more of, I was really, really nervous and my heart would beat so fast because I wanted to do good.
Yeah.
Because all anxiety is not bad, right? Some anxiety can be good. It means that you want to do well. That's why you're nervous, because you want to do well. You want to exceed, right? So, okay. So I'm going to collect these. Okay, so I'm going to look through these. All right. We'll see who is going to need some help, based on your anxiety level. Okay, so I'll set these right here. So we're going to go ahead and start with the presentation. Again, our focus is on testing strategies and how to cope with anxiety or stress. So we'll go ahead and start. Okay, so what is test anxiety? So before we start, so that way everybody knows or sees what we're presenting, it's just a bunch of words. Hopefully you can hear me. But, so what is test anxiety? So it's defined as a state of uneasiness and distress before and during a test that often lowers performance, which you said you go more blank. Test anxiety is a type of performance anxiety, a feeling someone might have in a situation where performance really counts or when the pressure is on to do well. So that's what I was talking about. Not all anxiety is bad. Sometimes that anxiety is just a feeling of, I want to do well, I want to exceed, I want to win this game, okay? So an example is a student who attends every class, takes great notes, has great grades, but the day of the test, he doesn't even know the easiest of answer or questions. So that's an example. What are some examples that you can think of, or that have happened to you?
Yeah, well, mainly what happens to me is just like I will kind of blink. That's
You
the way,
kind of blink?
always happens. Or I start shaking my leg.
You start shaking your
Yeah.
leg. So what happens after that? How do you go back to testing?
I try to just answer the ones I do know and
Okay.
try the rest after.
After?
Yeah.
Okay.
It makes it easier and
Makes
you go
it easier.
quicker. Yeah.
Okay, that's a good point. Okay, so we're gonna start with the symptoms of anxiety, and let me show symptoms: physical, cognitive, and emotional. Okay, so physical symptoms. So do a lot of you guys end up looking like this little guy here, all sweaty and shaky? Okay. So some of the physical symptoms are, butterflies in the stomach, shaking, like you said, shaking of the leg, sweating. Some people start sweating. What else? What else? What else happens to you guys? Sweating, shaking, any physical, or that you've seen on other students. Any physical
I've seen
symptoms?
students where their palms get like sweaty
Their
and
palms
and
get sweaty?
they like start wiping their hands down, you know. Yeah.
Okay, I've seen that too. What else have you seen?
People get red.
People get red. Okay, people get really red. Okay, what about you? Have you seen anything, any physical symptoms on anyone?
Just people looking around to see, so they're not feeling as confused.
Okay, so looking around. Okay, that's another one. Okay, so cognitive symptoms. A lot of students will say things like, or will tell themselves, I don't want to test, or they'll start fidgeting. They'll start moving around. They can't stay still, and they have that mindset. I don't want to test. I don't want to do it. I can't do it. I don't know this. Okay. And then some of the emotionals. They have a feeling of hopelessness. Like I said, a lot of students will get angry, okay, because they don't know it. Because people cope with things very, very differently. And then also low self-esteem. A lot of students who take a test and don't perform well end up retaking a test later on in the future. And because they always test so low, they don't want to do it anymore. They have that, there's something, they don't want to do it. They don't perform well, okay? So we're going to go on to the next one. Okay, now we're going to talk about the causes. Causes. Oh, see if you can see that. Okay, so what are the causes? What causes anxiety? What causes stress? Now, I don't know if this has happened to you guys before, but look at this little character. How I see the test while taking the test, and then how I see it after the test, right? Because sometimes that anxiety blocks us from, triggering that information that we really do know. Okay, so some of the causes, not being prepared. Okay, and we mentioned that earlier. Fear of failure. I can't say that word. People don't want to do it because they're gonna fail again. Okay. History of not performing well or blanking out. Okay, that happens a lot too. Focusing on other classmates on and how they're doing. So a lot of the time students will be testing, and like you said, they're looking around to see who's done, who's not, how far they are. They start looking at their papers. Okay, I've done that before. Outside distractions, sometimes when you're in a high school setting, you have the large windows and you have people running and you can see people, or you see a bird flying, and you're just curious about where this bird is going for some reason, right? Because the test is so boring, you don't want to do it, right? So what makes you nervous? What makes you nervous? What are some of the causes in your situation?
Not being prepared.
Okay, so not being prepared for you most of the time, is that? Okay, what about for you?
Not knowing the questions.
Not knowing the questions because maybe you didn't study?
Or maybe even like you kind of know what's on the test, but you get anxiety, so you blink out.
You blink
But
out?
I know-
Okay. What about you? What is your main
Probably
cause?
the pressure is the thing that gets me like, oh man, what do I do? You know?
Oh, the pressure
Yeah, pressure.
of doing well?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Good causes. Okay, so why is it important to address test anxiety? So this is the next slide. Okay, so why is it important before we start? Why do you think it's important? I'm not even going to show you yet. Why do you think it's important to discuss anxiety and address it and be aware of it and know how to cope with it, how to deal with it? Why do you think it's important?
So you can control it more and you don't get as nervous. Like,
Yeah, so you can control it. Okay, good point. What else? What do you think?
That was a good one, what you said.
Uh-huh. Do you think stress affects your grades in school? The stress and the anxiety? Maybe test scores?
GPA.
And GPA? Uh-huh.
Because you could be in another class thinking about that test. Like,
Yeah, it affects you, right? Do you think it affects your health?
I mean, it can, because it'll probably
Yeah, it
keep
can,
you
like-
from eating.
it can like tear you down mentally. Too,
Tear you down mentally? Okay, yeah, okay. So these are the reasons why it's important to address it. Because number one, your health suffers. You know, a lot of the times, like I said, your self-esteem, you know, there's a decrease in self-esteem. Not only that, but stress can progress and get worse, okay? Maybe first test, you know, affected you in a certain way, but maybe second, third, and fourth just literally just had a major impact on you. Lower GPA and grades, which is true, you know, if you don't do well on a test, then how are you supposed to get good grades? How are you supposed to, you know, exceed in these state tests, right? Okay, and then also it impacts learning and test performances, which we discussed earlier, and then lifelong learning. It impacts your lifelong learning, and why do you think that is?
Because it can probably hold you back from doing stuff like to explore, you know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You know, it's not only testing. I mean, think about it. In you know, daily we deal with stuff like that. You know, we need to learn how to cope with it. So, for example, even going to a grocery store and you know you're stressed or anxious about somebody beating you to the parking spot or whatever it may be, right? Okay, or maybe you play sports on the weekends and you're you know you're slowly I don't know, you know, that nervousness is just piling up before your game on Sunday or, you know, whatever it may be. So, you know, it's important that we know how to cope with it because we deal with it every day, right? Anxiety and stress every day. So how do we overcome anxiety? So this is the next slide. I can barely see it. So how do we overcome anxiety? First of all, you need to take care of yourself because nobody is going to do that, right? You're in control of yourself and what you do. So you have to develop a good sleeping schedule. You have to eat properly, exercise, whether that means meditating, if you guys do any of that. How many of you guys exercise? Or what do you guys do whenever you guys are feeling stressed and you're just like, man, I'm done with this. What do you guys normally do?
Try to get distracted.
Okay, so what's your
usually go on my phone.
You go on your phone? What do you do to distract yourself?
Watch movies.
Watch movies? Okay, what about you?
Watch ASMR.
Oh, okay. So we do something, right, to cope with the stress and whatever it is that we're feeling, okay? All right, so also, it's important to be on time, okay? Be on time. Give yourself time to look over the structure of the test. Whenever you guys, you know, are going to test, it's always nice to show up on time. You get to listen to the teacher's instructions. What's so funny? You guys are laughing. You know, listen to her instructions. You're able to kind of review the test very quickly before she says go. Okay, so that's major. Versus somebody who's running in the door with their cell phone and is rushing in and doesn't even know what the teacher said, right? Okay. Be prepared and ready to test. Manage your time. You know, if she says there's 30 minutes for this test, make sure you don't take too long on one question, okay? Keep a study schedule. Whenever you're getting ready for a test, you know, study maybe a week in advance. Study for an hour, study for 30 minutes. That's always going to help as well. Stay positive. Think positive thoughts. Replace any negative ones with positive ones. And we'll practice that in a little bit. And then ignore others. I remember when I used to test, my biggest, my anxiety would just get worse when I would see the first student get up from their seat and turn in that test, and then that second person turn in that test, and then I felt like, oh my gosh, I need to hurry up because I need to go turn in that test too. And I was always like the last, if not the last, the second or third to the last to submit a test, because I was one to review everything and then submit. And when I see everybody standing up and submitting, I'd get really, really nervous. Like, man, I gotta hurry up, And it was just like that pressure of rushing through a test that I didn't want to rush through. So, also know the rules and dress accordingly. Have you guys ever tested and you're like freezing cold and you can't focus because you're cold or you're too hot or you're hungry, or right?
Yeah.
Okay. So make sure you dress appropriately. And then I said this one right now. Ignore that others have finished before you. Okay? And be confident, which is very important. Be confident. Even if you don't know everything on the test, hey, do the best to your knowledge. Okay? All right. So right now we're going to watch a video of Mr. Bean. Okay? And we're going to show you how Mr. Bean copes with anxiety. So, very quickly, Mr. Bean, where are you? Did I not have it open? Let me see. Oh, right here. Let me just copy it. Okay, so this is how he copes with anxiety before a test. So you guys will see what he does. Keep going back and forth. Okay. Have you guys ever heard of Mr. Bean?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. He's been on different shows. Mr. Bean. Oh, maybe up here. Paste. Okay, so this is Mr. Bean.
Your new career could look like this.
Thank you for calling Dr. Sanders' office. So I'm officially an administrative medical assistant. Look at this beautiful office I get to work in every day. Part of my job is making sure that everyone has the right paperwork filled out, schedule patient appointments, medical billing, records, and insurance claims. I love helping patients, but I can't do meals, so this job is perfect for me.
What if this was
There you go. So this is Mr. Bean. He's gonna test. This is what he does.
Secondary vision? Oh, yes. I'm concentrated on trigonometry. I'm a calculus mainly. I believe they concentrated on calculus last year. Oh dear.
Quiet, ladies and gentlemen, please. The exam will commence in 2 minutes.
See, so he's worried about, what somebody else in the classroom is doing. He's being distracted. So whatever he's doing, he has to do. Whatever his partner's doing, he has to do. is how he copes with anxiety. Look, so if it means bringing your favorite toy to school, do that. See, and he's gonna say his time. It does it for him. So, all right. So, what do you guys normally do whenever, or what have you done when you feel stressed or anxious during a test?
I just try not to think about it, and how I said earlier, I just go through the ones I do know first, and I don't really worry about the other ones at that time,
Mm-hmm. So you don't think about it?
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't really think about it.
Yeah. I mean, the best you can do is just read the question over and over, maybe something will click.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So, where were we? So now here. Okay. So, what are some testing strategies? What do you do to study, and how do you take tests? So we just discussed that right now. You said, that you try to not think about it, and then just do what you know, and then come back to the rest. What about whenever you guys study? What do you guys normally do? Do you guys like to be in quiet areas? Do you like to study with people? How do you normally study for a test?
Normally, I just study in my room when no one's home.
In your room? Okay, that helps for you.
Yeah,
What do you do?
usually when it's quiet with
When it's quiet?
flashcards.
Okay. What do you do?
With a group of friends.
Group of friends?
Yeah.
Oh, so you like that type of study? Yeah. Okay. So friends. All right. So don't let this be you. Plan ahead. You don't want to be this little guy right here whenever test comes around. How do I make this from current slide? Oh, there you go. So this is the next slide. Testing strategies. Okay. So next time you guys take a test, you guys will be able to identify and that stress, that anxiety that you're feeling, and these strategies that you learned today. Hopefully, you are able to implement that onto your next test and do well. Okay. So things to consider before the test. Just know what you're going to be tested on. What type of test will it be? Make sure you understand it. Is it going to be multiple choice? Is it going to be short answer? Okay, make sure you know all that. Make sure you study. Don't wait until last minute. Okay, because if you're going to cram 5 chapters of math and try to learn it in 5 minutes because that's all you want to study, it's not going to happen, right? Have little study sessions. Study a section or a chapter a day if that works. And then repetition is key. Make sure you reread and examine class notes, anything that you learned in class, and pair up with somebody. Hey, did you understand this? Did you get that? Okay, pair up with people. Study in groups, compare notes, and if you have any questions, make sure you ask your teacher. And most importantly, get sleep. Okay, make sure you sleep, because I've seen a lot of yawning, during exams, and
Yeah.
I've been there too. I'm one of those yawners too, every time. So make sure you sleep. During a test, things to consider during a test. So now we've learned what to do before a test, which is study, make sure you look over your notes, make sure you know what the test is going to be like, okay? Now, during the test, what should we do during a test? So don't let your little buddy, distract you, okay? Because this is what happens a lot. Actually, I forgot to show this slide right here. Okay, so don't let your buddies distract you, okay? Make sure during the test, you read instructions and read everything carefully, and make sure you're understanding, okay? Make sure you're understanding what you're reading, what the test is about. Answer everything as it is being asked, okay? So if it's telling you, make sure you have an introduction 3 body paragraphs and a conclusion, give them that. Don't give them a big chunk of just blab, and you're going to be failed for it. Okay.
Yeah.
So make sure you proofread your answers. Make sure you answer any skipped questions, and don't let other students distract you. And most importantly, it doesn't matter who finishes first, okay? So don't pay attention to any of that stuff. Now, after the test, things to consider after the test. Okay? Things to consider after the test. When you receive your test results, okay, after you're done testing, make sure you look through everything, okay? Make sure you look through your test. How did I do? What did I miss? Why did I miss that, okay? And make sure you understand your mistakes. And then make sure you save all your notes, practice tests, and anything that was graded for future testing, okay? All right, so now that we're done with this, okay, we are going to, before we do that, okay, so just a quick review. What are some strategies, tell me, how can you cope with stress, and what are some strategies that can be implemented during, in a situation like that? What can you do?
I think the best thing is just to always try to be prepared.
Always be prepared.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe have like notes that you can review before the test.
Okay. So things to consider before the test. We'll start with that. Things to consider before the test. What can we do?
Reading notes.
Okay. Read your notes.
Yeah, just study in general.
Study. Okay. What about during the test?
Try to
Just
calm yourself.
yeah, try to stay calm so you don't get anxiety and like your mind goes blank.
Okay.
Yeah.
What else? What should you do? Make sure you understand the test.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And make sure you're answering what they're asking you. Okay. What about after the test?
Try not to think about it. So if you feel like you did bad, it's just gonna be bothering you the whole time.
Okay.
Yeah. So try
So
to stay confident.
Once you get to stay confident,
Yeah.
okay, great. And what about when your teacher gives you that paper and you got a C? What should you do?
Maybe
just-
ask the teacher can we take it and actually study for it and be prepared.
Okay.
Or use it like as a lesson.
Use it as a lesson. Review what you got, and review and understand what it is that you got wrong. Okay. Good points. Now, these are strategies, to take into consideration before, during, and after a test. So now we're gonna practice a small breathing technique that can be used during a test. Okay. How many of you guys have ever taken like big breaths and just during the test? Yeah. Anybody? Yeah. Or what do you guys do? Do you guys pinch yourself or breathe, or what do you guys do? Any of that? Any like breathing, or maybe a lot of people use the little squishies or like the spinners nowadays.
Yeah.
They have the spinners. What else do people use to cope with things?
I just move
Stress.
my leg. I'm always shaking my leg.
So leg. Can you do a little stinky leg?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that works. So we're just gonna try a very quick technique right now. So I want you guys to close your eyes. All 3 of you, close your eyes. Don't fall asleep though. Okay? Close your eyes. Take a deep breath, and hold your breath for a second. Hold it, and then breathe out slowly. Okay? I want you to do that one more time. Take a deep breath, hold it for a second, and then breathe it out slowly. Okay? How does that feel?
Feels good.
Feels good.
Yeah.
It feels relaxing. Okay. So whenever your mind is going crazy and you're just like, man, I don't know this, I don't understand this, do that. Okay, try that. Now, another technique that I have is typically whenever we are feeling very stressed and don't want to take a test because we don't understand it or don't even know how to begin the test, we start to think very negative, right? Like in your mind, you start telling yourself, I don't want to do this. I don't know it, right? So what can we do with these negative thoughts? Well, we can always flip those and think positive, right? Like for example, you know, I don't understand all the questions on this test, but I'm gonna do the best I can. Okay? So, who wants to give me an example of a negative thought that you can flip over into a positive thought? Just anything. Just one of you guys.
Well, usually when people,
Any negative thought that you've had before, that you've experienced.
it's like, for example, I'll like begin to take a test and I'll kind of get anxiety, like, oh no, I don't know this, but then I'm like, no, I tell myself, no, I know this, and then kind of just take my time and read the question and read all the answers.
Okay. Okay. All right. Any negative thoughts that you've had before that you've? So give me the negative thought and let's flip it. So a
Alright.
negative thought.
So let's just say if I don't know it, I just think in my head, oh, I'm just gonna fail this.
I'm just gonna fail this.
Yeah.
Okay. So how can we turn this negative thought into a positive one? I'm gonna fail this.
To be confident.
Always think positive.
Okay. So instead of saying, "Oh, I'm gonna fail this," what can you tell yourself?
We can do
Or
it.
if I fail, then next time I'll make sure that I study or I do better.
But we don't want to fail.
Yeah.
Okay, so you don't want to tell yourself, okay, it's okay to fail this time, but oh, I want that next time. You want to fix the problem right there and then. So what can you tell yourself?
I'm gonna pass it.
I'm going to pass this test. I'm going to try my best. I'm going to do the best I can, whatever it is, okay? Don't tell yourself,
Yeah.
I'm going to fail it. Ah, that's cool. I'll fail this one. I'll pass the next one. You don't want to tell yourself that. Okay, so perfect. So today you guys have learned different strategies, coping mechanisms, and that you guys should be able to implement onto your next test, right?
Mhm.
Okay, so now, I promise we're almost done, okay? So now I'm going to give you these two problems, okay? And I want you to write them on your paper. And in fact, just do number one. Just do number one, okay? Just do number one. So it's 1/2 plus 3 over 4. How many of you guys remember how to do this?
I think
Okay? Again, take it as if you were in class. You're getting a test that should be very easy. You've done this before. You've been, guided through different steps and how to figure these problems out. So, how many of you guys remember how to do these?
Somewhat.
Somewhat? Okay. So, just because this is a little experiment, what if I was to tell you, ignore these? Because some of you guys weren't paying attention in class. But, what if I was to say, give me 22 times 2? 22 times 2. Write it down and figure it out.
44.
Okay, so see, you even knew that without even having to write it down. So, why was it easy to answer it or do such a
Just
question?
memory.
Memory,
Yeah.
it's something that you've learned, okay, all right, and you've practiced maybe,
Yeah.
okay. Now, did you get anxious? Did you get nervous when I asked you that?
No.
Because it's something that you're what?
I already knew and I'm
You
familiar with.
you're familiar with.
Yeah.
See how important it is to study, to get familiar with what you're learning.
Mhm.
That way, you feel this way every time you take a test, right? Did you get nervous when I said, what's 22 times 2? No, because you knew it, right? Same reason. So it's important to practice, review, and know what you're doing, right? Okay? So we won't have to finish this. I just wanted to ask you that. Now that you know these strategies and how to cope with anxiety and stress during a test, we have your initial questionnaire, which I haven't graded yet, but I will. Now that you know all this, and you've done a different math problem, which was 22 times 2, which sounded like it was very easy to do, and one of you was able to do it in your
Yeah.
head, right? Now, based on that math problem, 22 times 2, answer these questions again. How did you feel about that question, 22 times 2? How did you feel about it? Actually, in fact, you know what? I'm going to give you these back. And write your new answers right next to the other ones. So just on the left-hand side. Based on that question, 22 times 2, because that question was very different from the first one I gave you, right?
Mm-hmm.
That long math problem. So how did the 22 times 2 make you feel? And answer that question. Or questions. How did that make you feel? Okay, and you guys said it was easy, I knew it, I've seen it before. So that's the goal, that you guys feel this way every time you guys test. So answer that. All right, and you guys are done. Oh, wow. So I'm seeing a big difference in numbers. So I'll take these and I'm gonna add them. All right, perfect. So yeah, big difference. Why do you think that is? Why do you think, so just very short and then we'll end this. Why do you think the initial math problem that I gave you at the beginning of the presentation made you nervous, made you blink, made you feel a certain way, but not this last math problem?
We didn't know.
Yeah, we weren't familiar with it, and when
Okay.
you're not familiar with something, you feel more like uncomfortable about it.
So how do we get familiar with things? What do we do?
Repetition, practice it, or study.
Practices, study, okay? So next time you guys have a huge test, what are we gonna do?
Practice.
Study.
Practice, study. What else? What do you do before a test?
We can meditate to help us.
Meditate. What about during a test?
Yeah. You can take a breath to keep
Take a
calm.
deep breath.
Take
Deep
a
breath.
deep breath. What about negative comments that are just
Try to flip over to a positive comment.
positive comments? What about the end of the test? What should we do whenever we get results?
Try to stay confident.
Try to stay
If
confident.
you fail, use it as an experience.
Okay, I like that. All right, so this concludes our presentation, and thank you to all three of my students here tonight. I am very thankful that they're here with me today because I wouldn't have been able to complete this assessment without them. So thank you guys. Thank you so much.